Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. Heart Warriors is a series I've been guided and inspired to do thanks to my energetic connection with Kata. Kata is a beautiful sacred masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru, our sacred feminine site. What I'm here to do is to give a platform to men so they can speak about their journey into the heart, sharing their experience, their stories, their highs, their lows, tools, practices, wisdom, knowledge, insights. What did they pick up along the way that they can now share with the other men watching, and of course, us women who are walking right by their sides? Now, today's guest is a man who goes only by the name of Lorenzo. And to be honest, I don't know much about him. He was recommended to me by someone I respect very much. So I was happy to roll with it. So when I asked Lorenzo, please tell me a little bit about yourself so I can introduce you, he said, creating and then following a map of return to oneself, one's center, one's heart, going beyond my thoughts of limitation, back to the one of my imagination, the one we all have experienced as children, but most have put aside. So, really looking forward to chatting with Lorenzo and hearing all about his journey into the heart. Enjoy. Hello, Lorenzo. Welcome to Heart Warriors. Whereabouts
Hello.
in the world are you?
Well, I'm in Osaka in Japan right now. I've been here directly for the last 3 years. Before that, I was back and forth between Canada and here for 9 or 10 years. But yeah, sitting in the land of the rising sun on a cloudy day early in my morning.
Oh, beautiful. It's nice to interview someone that's on the same time. Pretty much there's only an hour difference between Brisbane and Japan. So we're pretty much in the same time zone. Awesome. So, Lorenzo, I know nothing about you. So I'm really looking forward
Okay.
to this show of finding out a bit more about you. So, can we start with the inner man? How would you describe the inner man when you let go of everything you've built up outside?
Well, it's so interesting that you put it that way. I mean, I'm delighted to be on Heart Warriors. Let me say that first because I've always felt that the best way to be alive is to do so through your heart, even though the world will try and direct you time and time again away from that. A bit of a misdirection towards what they say your heart is for, whether it's for making money or for chasing relationships or for increasing your bank account, a faster car, that sort of thing. And when you say what kind of a man is Lorenzo, it's very interesting to share that for my whole life I felt like a young boy, right? And I still do, right? My wife says she's dealing with a 5-year-old most of the time, maybe a mature 5-year-old. And so what I've seen from that is on the best of days, it's a matter of keeping the child inside alive without being childish. Remembering what your imagination means to you and has meant for you. It's something I've sat with my whole life. I've always felt that that part of you should be given the strongest voice, the strongest direction, the strongest intent on your day to day. It's one of the hardest things to do in this world. And then to learn to balance that, I guess, with being an adult, so you can't be childish, you can be childlike, and to put those two together and to move forward. So the man inside is a man struggling because I do want to be a strong man. There's no doubt about it. I do want to be a leader of my family and of my community. I do want to share the best of myself so that people can, I think all strong men, since it's, heart warriors, want to help their community, want to be directed towards the best, want to help keep the monsters away, want to help everyone be safe. And what that means has come uh, to be, in my opinion, very much a misdirection of what it really means, right? When they say we're going to keep you safe by giving you extra money or keep you safe by, the so-called, we'll say health and medical procedures of the day, or keep you safe by, new rules or new laws or new politicians or a bigger army. To me, that's all BS. The honest way of keeping people safe is to help their hearts be safe, help them grow if you have ladies in your life, to help them grow as the women they need to grow. If you have children, to allow them to grow as they would like to grow, and to do it for yourself and your friends and your buddies, and to watch each other's back. And I don't mean from your neighbor that's going to come and clobber you over the head, because I found that's really an illusion. I've been all over the world, and most people are nice, right? Most people just want to love, just want to grow, just want to have, a nice home for their family. And most people, you live and let live. That's, exactly what I found. I find it's only through the media, illusions, we'll say, that are telling you should be afraid of things. So the true heart of a warrior, because this is called Heart's Warrior, I would say, is to make sure that the monsters from the outside don't get inside, and then to help your family and your community grow from there.
Oh, this is fascinating. And I really want to jump on some points here before I forget them and, get caught up in a different conversation. So, imagination, let's expand this, because I agree with you. This is, well, the seed of creation, right?
It
So,
is.
can you expand on the power of imagination and how you utilize it in your life?
Well, I paint. I'm a poet. I come up with crazy songs. I have a crazy gallows, sense of humor. It's very rude. Yeah, I think you have to find your predilection, what you're good at, and just go with it. Not that so you hurt other people, but so that you're honest with yourself on what you wish to create and bring into being, and you really don't care what anyone says. Right? It really, and you can't really try to make money with your imagination. I mean, you can, obviously you can imagine a better way to do something, a better way to make hot sauce, a better way to, help people put their socks on. Really doesn't matter. But for me, from what I've seen, and I think what a lot of people miss, and I've studied imagination in my own quite a bit, is to imagine that your imagination is beyond anything you can think about, is beyond anything you have experienced to this moment, even beyond anything that any human being has come up with into this moment. I mean, if you can imagine it, you can make it real, in my opinion. And that goes beyond even the physical, I found. If we're going to talk, what I feel imagination is, you get into the metaphysical. You can imagine yourself with wings. You can imagine yourself in, two places at once. You can imagine a life beyond the monetary constraints of the day. You can imagine a life beyond the political constraints of the day. You can imagine a life beyond the lifespan of the day. I mean, and that really gets to the heart of what imagination is for. And I feel it's something that's super, super fallow these days, as far as, if you ask someone what they mean to be free, or, they'll say, I'm looking for love, or I want more money, or maybe it means I'm taller or skinnier or stronger or younger or healthier. And these are really baby steps in imagination, because anybody can come up with those. The key ones are, how was life 10,000 years ago? How was life 2,000 years ago? What is life, beyond, the physical limitations of what can be shared with your neighbor on a regular basis, but what comes from, your dreams? Like, how can you make those real? It's really, in some ways, it's tough to talk about imagination, because I find it comes first from a place beyond words. And then, then you bring it down, down, down. And then, once you start to see it or feel it, you can share it with people by allowing a conversation to begin.
Yeah. How important is it to bring forth an emotion to go along with that imagination?
Well, to answer that question, before we, I guess, dissect what I feel about emotions, I strongly feel that emotions and feelings are not the same. Right. So to bring your feelings into it, if that's what you mean, you really have to bring your guts, your soul. When they asked 80 years ago, Asian people, Japanese people, where they thought, they would used to point to their center, the hala, their center brain, right? And whereas Western people would point to their head. So I feel, right. So I feel strong. I think emotions are not worth the paper they're written on. That's my feeling with emotions. I think an emotion is something that comes and goes very quickly. It comes with the winds. You go, oh my goodness, this is great. Oh my goodness, this is horrible. And then they blow away when your emotion changes. because you can have an emotion of loving something, and then the next day you feel bad and it's gone. Whereas a feeling is something that stays forever. I think a feeling is something you get in your body. A feeling is something you can't change. As an example, like let's say you have an emotion, you want to eat sugar. I used to be addicted to sugar. So I'll just talk about myself. I was raised on cookies and candies and cakes and all that other kind of garbage. So I'll have an emotion when I walk by a bakery that I want to eat, their chocolate choux cream or this chocolate cake or this new, I love matcha treats because I'm in Japan. So, you see a matcha donut yesterday that you don't see all the time. You go, oh my goodness, my emotion is I want to eat that donut. But my body goes, are you crazy? My stomach or my intestines will start hurting. Now, if I walk by those, they'll go, don't do it. And so then I have that feeling of, well, my emotions are saying, go for it. As an example, even yesterday, I saw a match doing it. I was visiting Kyoto to see about maybe a move that I'm considering with my wife to a different prefecture here. And, there's all kinds of fancy donut stores now. So you go, oh my goodness, strawberry donuts, matcha donuts, chocolate donuts. And I walked by and I was hungry. And I looked in the window and I said, I might never see these again. My emotions said, but my gut said, nah. Right. So to take your long story short, your feelings are super important in your imagination because you could be feeling something's missing. You could be feeling you need to be healthier. You could be feeling you need to dream about more. You could be feeling about the kind of life that you want to lead, but you're not sure where that's going yet. And so that can take you towards a bigger imagination of what's possible, through whatever actions you put into play from those feelings.
Super.
I hope
Yeah,
that
and that ties in with the actual word emotion, right? Energy in motion. So they come through us. It's always a movement, right? The emotions, exactly, what you said. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to, like, emotions are great. It's true. They move you, and so it's really important to see what's moving you, like where you're, like, when I get a feeling or an emotion, I always study it. That's the kind of man that I've been, is going, where's that coming from? Is this emotion something that's mine? Is this feeling mine? Is this something that was given to me? Is this, something that I've from reading something or seeing something on TV or from a friend or a family member gave to me? Or is it really, what I've seen is that a feeling hits you. It's like a strike from beyond. You'll just wake up half asleep in the morning and something will go, you're going to Kyoto to look around today. And you're going, I didn't know that. Okay. Where did that
You're
come
going to do
from?
Heart Warriors.
Yeah. Or you're going to do Heart Warriors, right? And I'm going, okay, that's very interesting. As I mentioned before we started recording, I'm usually on the other end of interviewing people. And what's really important about feelings is that when you're sharing what it is you want to share with people, to remember for them and for yourself, all you have to judge it on is yourself, right? There's no right or wrong ones. It's just you talking to yourself, and you put it into action and you see where that brings you. And from there you can make, new choices if it didn't work out, and, continue on if it does.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really interested in the subject of men and emotions. Now, you seem so in touch with it all. Were you always that way around emotions? Were you brought up in a family that encouraged you to emote and express?
Like I said, I'm going to be very clear. I dislike emotions. I'm going to be like clear with them. Okay. Because I find that an emotional body and an emotional feeling is what moves people in a direction maybe they're not interested in. Now, if you say feelings,
Right.
I'm going to go, yes. I raised in a family that, no, I wasn't. I really wasn't. My father was a regular man at the time, and he to this day has trouble expressing his feelings. Even I talked to him a few weeks ago. My mother, she was an emotional being, no doubt, and I'm not sure that served her very well. Right now she's a bit of a basket case, having gone. So I saw what emotions did, right? Like, my mother was raised in such a way is that she was an orphan through the war. She had her challenges, raised by a stepfather. And so her emotions of love and her feelings of love crossed wires. Right. And, so she's very loving, don't get me wrong. My mother's super loving. She loves other children, but then her emotions were to hold and not let go and not set free. So I had the opposite experience of, I love my mother very much, and I still do. And I was a first son and even a mama's boy for a while, until it got to a point where you felt smothered by the emotions of the love. And so you're looking at like, what is love? Love sets you free, right? Love allows you to grow. Love wants you to be independent. Love needs you to become who you want to be in your experience of being alive, even if you don't like it, right? Even if you're not, happy with what you see as that person or people should be doing. You go, okay, you need to experience what you need to experience, have at it. And it's not what I would do, but, I love you, so I trust you. And then and so my mother would smother with emotions. So, I think from a young age, I always knew BS. It just hit me, right? Like when a politician would talk, I'm going, why are they always lying? Right? My guts would say. Or when I was raised in some religion, I'm going, why are they making people so sad and so upset instead of free? And why are they telling me it's all about love, but then you should hate these people, or you should dislike this, or you should be fighting with this? So, my guts were always going, something stinks, with all of this. And to this day, I'm at odds with my parents about my life, what I'm doing, what I'm creating. They don't understand that I make videos like you make. They don't understand that my goal is to help people's hearts wake up. They don't understand that, my father's always going, so how's your money? How's your business? How's this? Are you paying the bills? Are you moving to a bigger house? And then he's happy. And I'm going, you never, and his health is so. He's had his doctor experiences, we'll say, and my mother's dementia is, and I've tried, right? So, to give them healthy alternatives or herbs or different ways to be alive, and to suggest to them, what to do as far as I'm concerned with how to get your heart, and they don't listen. So that, gives me, I guess, a long way to come around to your answer, to sit with, my emotions that go, oh, I want to go help my parents. I want to love my parents. I want to be beside them and help them, to my feelings of going, there's nothing you can do. You can just see that they're, you have to set them free to be as unhealthy as they're choosing, to choose the kind of, I would say, the death in their finality that they're choosing. And I don't really know why, but I can allow with my feelings to let everyone go where they need to go, because to me, I seem that that's the best for all of us. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. Do you believe that they chose their destiny on a higher level?
I think we all do. I know we all do. I'm positive we choose our parents. That's my feeling for things. I have had long conversations with my wife about this, and it's always, if it had been a little bit better, I would have been stuck. If my parents had been a little more loving, I would have stayed in Toronto, where I'm from. If my father had been a little richer or had his own business, I would have been stuck in that business. If that old relationship, if they were a little bit nicer to me, and it was always a hard experience, like, I gotta go, I gotta go, so from that, I always wondered why I chose parents that were emotionally trying to shackle me, I'm going to say, or, set me up in a religion that did the same, or set me up in a job. I was a stockbroker for 10 years out of university. And, and if that was a little better, people were nicer, and they were all, mean, vicious reptilians, we'll say, or that's the feeling I got for, having spent 8 or 9 years in that business. If it was a little nicer, I'd be an old dead, man with 4 ungrateful children at the moment. So I'm going to say, yes, we choose our paths by our very choices, by our very, day to day. And, there are no victims here. People get really angry with me all the time when I go, there's no victims, pick it up, suck it up, decide what it is. Because what about the children that had this bad experience? And what about, the bad people? I'm going, it's not the same. Obviously, those things are horrible, right? Obviously, people shouldn't be interfering with anybody, let alone, children. But that's not the point. Once you're an adult and you're sitting here, and then you have to make your choices, right? Whatever they are for you, you can't blame. If you blame, you become a victim and you don't go anywhere. Like I watched my mother blame everybody for everything. So going back to that, and that showed me, and being angry about it. And then, she had a stroke, and I'm going, oh, that's what I used to be the same, because, I was closer to my mother than my father growing up. And then I sat and I said, oh, this is what happens when you let anger rule your head forever. Your head explodes one day. Right? Or this is, and I saw my father, who wasn't a strong man. I go, oh, this is what happens when you let emotions rule the family, which he did too much, and I go, then you don't get the strength you need to ground yourself. I see the mountains behind you. and that I always feel that, you need to ground yourself like a mountain, in this world. So yeah, you do, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I was saying that so others that are watching, it's easier if for people that do have parents that have had the medical experiment, and and struggling to come to grips with that. Exactly what you said about we do choose our own destiny for whatever reason, and I think that makes it easier to accept the different choices, right?
Well, you're sitting there and nobody's really forcing you to do any of these things. People go, I had no choice because of my job, or I had no choice because I want to go to Florida this year, or I had no choice because I want to visit my grandparents, or I need to go to this funeral. But you do have a choice, right? And it's not an easy choice, right? You can choose to change your job. You can choose to leave a relationship behind. You can choose, like, I haven't visited with my parents for 3 years because I refuse any of their medical nonsense, right? I don't even like to test because I've heard all kinds of strange things, about what, oh, just get the test. I'm going, my guts are telling me no. And what about, my older parents, when are you going to come visit? I'm going, I would love to, but you made a life to where you are, I've asked them to visit me dozens of times years ago, and they always had reasons that they couldn't. And now they have other reasons that they can't. So I'm going, is it easy? No, but I have parent-like relationships with other people now. I mean, people don't get that. I have brother-like relationships. I never had any, but I have sister-like relationships. I have, friend-like relationships, and it's not the way you think it is, but it is the same when you get down into your guts and your experience, because you can be my sister, right? You could be my, you can be my friend. You can have a good relationship with the next person, or I don't have any children, but you can still be a good father figure or a good role model. You don't really actually have to be blood related for that to happen.
Yeah.
We're all related as we decide that we are, in my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Lorenzo, let's get into your adulthood. What was the rock bottom moment for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Very good question. Rock bottom moment for me was when I drank too much one day, or for about a month. And because I had a life, I had enough money, I had what I wanted, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. And, this is a story I haven't shared before, but since you asked, I will share it now. When I first came to Japan, it's very easy to get alcohol here, years and years and years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. It's all too easy. You can go into a drugstore and get a bottle of whiskey for $7, right? I don't like whiskey. I'm just saying and 24/7 there's convenience or convenience stores in Japan. So anytime, any day, if you're of age, you can get alcohol here and you can drink anywhere. That's no problem. Streets, parks, benches, doesn't matter. So when I first came, I was like a kid in a candy store, and I took advantage of that. I'm going, oh my goodness, I have enough money, my job's good, things are moving really well. So, have another, have another, have another. And then you have too many, and then I had to understand for myself, like, what was I doing, what was going on, why was I being drunk, what was I hiding from myself. And it was really, really hard. I had to spend, a couple of weeks kind of just sitting in the house. So I'm lucky it was only a couple of weeks, sobering up, but I had to get to the core of what I was hiding from myself, because I had thought I had made it. I had been doing work for helping people. I had been doing work for healthy living. I had been doing work, I've gone to hundreds of health shows in Canada, hundreds of new age shows, hundreds of metaphysical shows at the time, working with dozens of people sharing this good thing and that good thing and the other good thing. And so I thought I was doing good. I thought I was doing well. I thought my heart was happy. And then I had to sit back and go, like, why did I just do that? What was I hiding from? What was really missing from my life? That's what happened when I hit rock bottom. And I believe everyone has this reality, and it's probably rock bottom. When you look around at what's going on, and you look around with how people treat each other, and you look around with especially, modern, so-called modern times, you got to know in your guts there's something better. There's probably nothing but better opportunities and options. This is really an interesting juxtaposition of a world. So I had the opportunity from hitting rock bottom to see for myself where I needed to go and what I was hiding. And it allowed me to get back to the child that I grew an adult over a child without healing what was wrong from my childhood when I became a man. So my poor fears were bleeding through, even though I kept denying them. And I see that a lot with people. It's like, oh no, my life is great. Oh no, I need to go to a better community. So many people I've chatted with, I don't know why I'm living in Portland, for example. I'll give an example. And my community is horrible, and my people are horrible, and the world around me is horrible, and everything is a mirror. I'm going, well, why are you there? Why are you sitting in a community where, and if you're going to point a finger, you're automatically wrong, because then you're a victim, right? You go, it's their fault, it's the rules fault, it's my neighbor's fault, it's the fault of the world I'm living in. And so my rock bottom allowed me to see that whatever was wrong, whatever was horrible, was strictly, like, nobody forced me to open up another can and drink a can of beer, right? Nobody forced me to do that. I had to see for myself why and what I was hiding from.
And what were you hiding from?
My heart, my pains, my lack of belief in myself, my lack of growing up. I have to be honest with that one. It's like I was confusing childish with childlike quite a bit in my life. I have to say that. Not wanting responsibility, not wanting to take on the hard task of being a strong man. I've read somewhere from one of the Taoist books, or was an old style Tao book, where you're a child till you're 50. So this happened around 10 years ago when I was around 50. I'm 59 now. So this is when I had this experience. So that, and then like I've seen that you can live much longer if you choose to. We can probably live hundreds and hundreds of years. We used to live thousands of years. So this 70 and 80, and you get old and you get decrepit, is just bullshit from the monsters that be, that don't want you, because you become wiser when you're past 50 usually. But most people I've seen, when they get to their 50s or 60s and the wisdom strikes, they've allowed their bodies or their mental facilities to degrade to the point where they can't do anything about it. When I used to go to these health shows, we did print newagora.ca, which is still up there. People can see online. I'll plug us a little bit, newagora.ca. You can see all our back issues there if you want to, and what we're doing now. And I used to go to all these shows with our newspapers, because we did a monthly full color print magazine at the time, before it became untenable with the viral shenanigans a few years ago. And there would be so many old people going, oh, I see this is bad, and I see that's bad, and oh my goodness, my children and my health, and you go do it now, and we love what you're doing, and do it, do it for us, because I see the truth, but I can't do it for myself now. And that felt creepy, to be honest, because well, you've got to a point, you should be able to do it for yourself, right? You should be able to, I can't do it for you, I can't do it for anybody. And and you would feel the weight of people grabbing you kind of by the ankles and going, we need to go to freedom, so you have to go and take us there. And so what I saw is, at the time, going back to my rock bottom, is I was still a child. That's what I was hiding. I hadn't grown up yet. I hadn't taken responsibility. I hadn't seen whether I have money, whether I have health, whether I have a good relationship, whether I'm happy where I am, whether I enjoy my clothes, my body, my being, my comfortable in my skin. That it was all my responsibility, and I was still blaming. I was still saying, if only people understood our newspaper better and gave me more money. That came to me a lot. Or, I can't believe these people aren't getting that I'm really trying to help, and so they really need to give me the power so that I can help them, right? Or, I thought I knew better. My wife still tells me to this day, be careful. And in Japanese way, up nose. She goes, keep your nose down. You still get so full of yourself. Even a few days ago, she said, Lorenzo, when you do interviews, sometimes you sound like you know better, and you really don't know better for anybody but yourself. So that is what I was hiding, in that I was still of the opinion that I knew better for other people. And it was a hard lesson to learn that, I don't. I only know better for myself.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I loved what you said about the 50s, because that happened for me too. As soon as I hit 50, I went through a massive change, and my writing came through, and it's just been an uphill spiral from there, so I love that you said that. So are you in the health industry? What are you in?
Hell, it depends what you mean.
I was going to ask you at the end, but you can do it now.
Well, elect to govern yourself.
Right.
That's the industry I'm in. Freedom. So I'm not really in any industry. Like I have a In Love Unlimited. People could check it out. I do counseling and coaching. I used to be a matchmaker. I did that for 3 years too. I inherited a matchmaking business on the Sunshine Coast many years ago. I was going to the government to talk about some programs. They were offering money to do some sort of new business or new job at the time. And there was a lady there that was in the front office. And we were chatting because I was waiting in line. It's a very small village, the Sunshine Coast, 30,000 people living there. And so we got into conversations, and she had 3 sons, and she was living in a geodesic dome, but she was moving. And she said, Lorenzo, I have a matchmaking service on the Sunshine Coast here, and you'd be perfect to take it over and to do that. And so I was a love coach for a little while. I did radio, and I was doing live interviews, and I was in the newspaper. I wore red jeans around. It was easy for me to hitchhike at the time. So when you say what kind of business I'm in, it's about allowing people to get to the hearts, to know what that means for themselves, to pick up their own direction, and to allow themselves to grow the ways that they would like to grow without needing anyone's permission. So elect to govern yourself is the business we're in. So I do phantom work, missing pieces, but it's not really like you're missing harm. It's what you're missing in your imagination. The new now, I share tons of information out of the box ways that people can understand themselves. I'm really strong in, the emotion feeling difference that we touched base upon earlier, because I've done tons of interviews with Harold Kotz and other people, and some supposedly people that are beyond the new age, but I still see them confusing their emotions with their feelings. And I strongly feel we're manipulated through our emotions. So if you want to know what business I'm in, it's getting to the heart of the matter so that you can grow up and be free in the ways that you choose yourself to be free. And that's really the challenge, I think, for most people, is what does that even mean for them?
Yeah, we'll get into that. I just wanted to clarify the Sunshine Coast, because I'm on the Sunshine Coast here in
Oh,
Australia.
really?
But your Sunshine Coast is in Japan?
British? No,
Oh,
British
Canada?
Columbia in
Right.
Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
British Columbia, that they used that as a way to sell the coast at the time, and it was not the Sunshine Coast. I, li-
Ours is.
yeah, I lived there for many winters when you didn't see the sun for 3 months in a row. I still remember in October, November, December when it rained for 60 days. That was a crazy winter I spent there. But it helped me. Like I went through a lot of. You talked about rock bottom. At the time then too, I was traveling with a girlfriend that's not my girlfriend, and a friend that's still my friend, but I was a bit of an asshole to everyone at the time, and they left me alone in a small house. So I spent a couple of years there, kind of wandering the coast and wandering the beach and kind of getting to the heart of who I was and what was going on. So that maybe I've had many rock bottoms where I had to say, like, why did my friends leave me? Why am I here alone? What's going on? I just want to be loved. I just want to love. Like, and I had my mother's love, which was a smothering love. So I had to see that really wasn't love. That was, so yeah, Sunshine Coast, British Columbia. You have to take a ferry from Vancouver and then you can get there. It's a nice place.
Beautiful. Great. So, yeah, let's unpack this. So, going back to the rock bottom moment we spoke about, where you were drinking and you had to stop and take stock of yourself, and you understood what you were hiding from, you did the mental work. How did you just stop drinking alcohol? How did you then incorporate your newfound wisdom into your life and start spiraling up out of that?
Well, my wife threatened to leave me if I kept drinking, so that was one thing. All right, a friend of mine came to from Canada to Japan to talk with me at the time, and he helped me out. And to be honest, I saw how I was not treating people well. Right? I saw how I was being selfish. And I saw how I was being selfish to my wife, because drinking just doesn't affect you; it affects the people around you. If you get grumpy, you're affecting the world around you. If you're just thinking of yourself, you're not being kind to your friends, no matter what you're saying. And so I incorporated it by becoming honest with what I was creating around me. I saw I was not creating the happy wife, the happy life that I wanted. I was not being the good friend that I imagined I was. I was not being the good person that I kept telling myself I was. I had to watch people, like people in my family and other friends and people I've talked to over the years that would say they're nice and they're kind, religions that say we're just doing the best. or politicians that are telling you we're doing this for you, we're doing this for your safety, I'm doing this because I love you, I'm doing this because I want to keep you this be safe that everyone signs their emails to me with now, and it creeps me out. Like, what does that even mean, be safe? Like, it's such gobbledygook. Be safe from what? Like, what are you being safe from, and how are you being? And right away, it's telling you you're not safe, right? So it's so they're posing the opposite fear garbage on you whenever they're signing this "be safe." You go, what? You know,
Yeah, I haven't had that.
yeah, I get that a lot, or it's this gobbledygook. So at the time when I hit rock bottom, it's been the same for me all of those times. When I hit rock bottom, when I was alone on the Sunshine Coast, or when I hit rock bottom, all of those times you're alone, right? It's like you're sitting in a room and you're going like, is this what I want? Right? It's like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, why am I like, if I'm such a great guy, why am I alone? I said on the Sunshine Coast. Or if I'm so loving, why are they angry with me? Or if I'm such a stalwart husband and relationship, like, what am I doing? Not understanding. And what it came down to is to see things from the other person's perspective, right? To gain some empathy. I didn't realize deeply enough, and I still have troubles with that all the time. I really have to sit back because I have old habits of just thinking, like, I was raised a first son, told how great I was, number one son in a family when that was supposedly important, and you're great, spoiled, which just means rotten, which just means, festering, which just means stinky. So I was definitely spoiled. So, and I wasn't encouraged. I was encouraged in the other way to take other people into consideration in my choices. My heart was always saying I was being great because my heart was always open. You can't close it once it's open, being a heart warrior, that never changed for me. But my head or my emotions were always telling me the opposite of what I was doing. Like, why don't they love me? Why aren't things great? Why aren't I healthy? I don't get it. And I had to see, when I looked in how other eyes were looking back at me, what I was creating beyond my own selfish small world, and to see how that affected the people around me.
This is great because, there's a lot of men out there that are watching, and women, but of course we're talking about men who, do have a daily alcohol habit that might not that might think, oh, it's quite harmless, a couple of beers after work, or, a couple of nights out on the weekend. Did when you stopped drinking alcohol, how different did your life become?
Completely different. I mean, I still have the urges, right? Like I said, I'm in Japan. They drink all the time. You go out and people are always drinking everywhere all the time, right? And you go to festivals and people are having a drink. You go here and people are having a drink. So you're always going, oh my good, and it's beyond easy. And I have seen that we have energy that can grow beyond a certain point. And if you're drinking, even for the weekend, maybe it's not true for everyone. I can only talk about myself. You're bombing, BALM, you're bombing a pain, or you're bombing a feeling of not, maybe not everyone's like this, but you're bombing a pain, and you're relaxing in a way that's probably in the end not good for your body. So, there's always a price to pay. If you drink, there's a price to pay on the other end. And so I don't know for everyone. Maybe for some people it's okay. I've had some friends that still have a few, drinks every now and again, and they say it's all right and they're good. Although I see they get more emotional and less patient, when they come out the other end, even if they'll deny it. So I think it erodes at your patience. I think it erodes at your ability to make a good choice. I have seen for myself that I get to a level of happiness, and I tried having a couple of drinks maybe a year ago, and it doesn't make you happier the way you would think it does. It does the opposite for me now, right? It brings me below my level of energetic competence, because it's literally slowing me down instead of speeding me up like it used to. So the more I become confident in who I am, the less I need to drink, to the point where I don't drink at all anymore, in that I trust myself and moving forward. So those people that are drinking, maybe, to be honest, it's the same with everything. To be honest, to why? Like, what are you doing? You're just having a few to relax and it's not bothering anyone and you're having a good life, whatever, it's up to you, really. And like, you can do what you need to do. But what could I tell them is just to be honest with themselves. It's really all I can suggest. in that way, and to see how it's affecting the people around them, and maybe to ask a few friends for their opinion if that's something you're interested in.
Thank you. How are Japanese men different from Canadian men?
Modern or before, like the last 10 years has shown me a big shift in manhood everywhere, to the squishy, mushy baby kind, right? And I see that here a lot too now. It's like, the floofy hair, and I used to buy socks at this place, and then suddenly they're neon pinky colors all over the place, and so it's a hard question to answer, because I'm not really an expert on either. I would find that it used to be that the roles of men and women were more defined in Japan, which is what I enjoyed when I first came here. Right? I didn't like the manly women I was seeing in North America, right? And I was never one for the, you can always here's something. Now that, for a while there wasn't any tourists or gaijins coming to Japan because they weren't allowed for the last 3 years, so it was really interesting. So for the last couple of years, I was almost the only white person I saw on a daily basis. It used to be more and more tourists. They're back now, but at the time, or for a couple of years, it was just me and Japanese people. And I remember trying to fit in and telling myself I should walk like a Japanese person. I should have the mannerism. And I'm sure I'm only 5'8", so from behind I fit in. Like, I don't stand out like a lot of the foreigners that are 6'7", and you can see them 10 miles away. But now that they're back and you see them, the foreign men, they walk chest first. It's really interesting. Like walking the street, like, get out of my way, get out of my way, get out of my way. I'm first, I'm here. Whereas the Japanese are more, even now that they're less polite than they used to be, they're more deferent, have deference to the rules around them, to the space of people around them. I mean, I loved Japan at the time when I first came here 10 years ago because of the politeness, because of the allowance of other people's space. It's changing. They're becoming very North American now. Very, 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 very North American. They're getting bigger. Short people shouldn't get big, but lots of them are here, and that's just very unattractive, men and women. When you get as wide as you are tall, I would say maybe you should, do something different. But that's just what I feel. So they're very different in the rules that they play. Like, people are so comfortable here, or used to be, men being men and women being women, and that's an amazing thing for what is required to grow a good community. We can get into that too, and what I mean by that, if you like. So how are things different, just in the mental attitude to what.
Let's go back to what you said about the men and women playing traditional roles, like when you first went to Japan 10 years ago. What do you mean by that? And can you give us some examples?
I really even hate the word traditional roles, but I find that, they call them trad women now, which is really weird. Traditional women, and it seems to me it's a derogatory state. It's like, be safe. Well, you're a trad woman. Like, it's like, what? So it's normal for a woman to want to care more about people, and a man to want to care more about the wider community at large. I think that's just a normal way of being alive. Women are built to want to look after the family, right? And that's fantastic. And men are built more to look at the big problems and try and fix them for their community. And I'm not saying it doesn't turn over, because I would like a nice family, and there are women that want to fix maybe bigger problems, whatever. I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but it's just a normal thing. Women make children if they want to. And so their natural desire, and I've had long talks with my wife about this, is to want their family to be okay, is to want their small community close at hand to be okay. And that's all right. That's fantastic. It's like if you're going to make a family, you're going to want someone looking after your children. You're not going to want, from what I've seen, your children to be raised by the community at large, as far, people, your friends, your relatives, great. But what I mean by that is, people in school that are strangers, your government telling your children what they can do, people you don't know telling your children what they can do. It's all kinds of dangers in that. You're going to want someone you can trust looking after your family, someone you love looking after them, who really loves them and cares for them, is not interested in an ulterior motive or has an agenda behind what they're saying when be safe, or we're doing this for you, or we're doing this, so that you can get a good job when you grow older. And to me, it's obvious if you get out of your mind and you get into your guts and your heart what you want to do with your life. And used to be, it's not shameful in Japan to be a housewife, right? To look after the children. It's not shameful, for the man to go out and work all the time. It's like it used to be normal. It's like that's what it is. If you want to do that, I mean, women probably work 10 times harder than men when they're housewives. This thing is like, oh, you're just a housewife, makes me want to punch people in the nose, because I watch what my wife does, or I watch what other mothers do, and there's no break, right? Time you get up, time you go to bed, you're doing everything all the time. It's probably 10 times harder than a man's job, or at least equally as hard. And it's just what and then so equating what you need to do with your time for these illusionary money dollar things, right? Is just the most asinine thing I can think of, because what are you doing? You're giving up your energy and your power. You only have so many years and so much time to do what you feel like doing, and you're giving it up for these illusionary dollars. Things have become twice as expensive in Japan recently because of the certain wars around the world, which is all bullshit. And so you're literally taking your energy and tying it into someone else's idea of what they value your life for, right? And so this is what I'm gonna, turn it up, men and women. And a man should want his community strong and happy and healthy, and that shouldn't be influenced by anybody. And if a woman wants to make a family or be part of a family and to keep that strong and healthy and growing in the right direction, that should be her role, regardless of what anyone says. And those are very, very connected, or can be, right? And in hand, it's a beautiful thing, and it's something that can really help both parties grow in love when you get beyond the physical, because eventually you get older and you're not chasing someone's behind, or you're not wiggling down the street and hoping you're going to catch the eye of some 6 foot tall guy with a big wallet or something, or you're not a guy chasing wiggly parts around. You're like growing in your heart. It's very different, and it's more the way I've shared this with people is I love trees. Is when you look at an old tree, it used to be in Canada, and you'd see the majestic redwoods. You're not saying, oh my goodness, that's an old tree, I'm not attracted to it. That's where your eyes go. That's where you want to hug. That's where your energy, you're going, oh my goodness, look at that. The little saplings or the small trees, you're going, whatever, they're cool, they're nice. You're not going, oh my goodness, I want to chase these little saplings, or I want to chase, it's the older trees, the majestic ones that have grown the way they want to grow, that you're looking at going, men and women. So when you grow beyond the sexy bits, let's say, and you get into something else, and you start to see really what a woman's power is, I have seen, and you start to see really what a man's power is beyond procreation. And then you get into an area, since you asked me that question, that you really can tell the difference, and how that's a beautiful thing, and that a woman can give birth to dreams. This is what I'm going to say. Right? Whereas a man fathers the dreams, or gives direction to the dreams. That's just a normal way. So a man is very good at standing straight in what he needs to bring into reality. We're going to do this, and that's that. And a woman can be more flexible, because that's just their nature. They move around more. That's just the way they're built, right? They're more of going where they feel like going, and so they can bring a dream into reality and nurture it. And that's something that really nobody talks about. I never see this in any relationship, or any, even this, be a traditional man, be a traditional woman, or it's good to be a woman, it's good to be a man. That to me is still the surface of what's possible, because when you get to bringing new dreams into reality, and I don't mean new babies, that's a procreation, but new dreams. Imagine that. We're going to go back to imagination. So imagine a man has a dream, a new society, a new way to be alive, a new power, new physical characteristics. I don't know, could be anything. And then you need a woman to give birth to this. All right. So, and that's even something I can't talk about, because this is all beyond words. So if you have real women, and I feel that's what's being on purpose in this society taken down, is when women are told they should be men, they're giving up their real power, which is giving birth to dreams. Right. And, so they're just working for $1. So they're just, an asshole working for assholes. And, when they tell a man he's just got to save money, and then somehow that's going to make everything good, then he's giving up his power, which is the power to direct society towards a way to be that his heart is telling him is possible.
This is so good. This is so good. How do you feel about well, I always think that the masculine drive is for freedom and the feminine drive is for love, which sort of fits in with what you said about women caring for the family and men building the community. Would you agree with that?
100%. My relationship with my wife over the last 10 years has been amazing because she's always going, I don't understand freedom. And I've been sharing, I'm happy you asked that question actually. And I've been sharing what it means. And even now, a few days ago, she's going, that's what you mean. Oh, this. And I thought I knew what love was. Right. But I've been watching my wife being like selfless to a fault almost. So I've had to help her with that. And I've been selfish to a fault. And she's helped me with that. And to going, well, I still love my mother, I still love my sisters, and I still love this, and be careful, you don't want to trample and you don't want to be cruel to people. And my experience has been, yes, a real woman knows love, knows what it means. And I don't mean the emotional self-narcissist, you look in the mirror and put 70 pounds of makeup on, and try, the weirdness that they're teaching women these days, or the weirdness of love that they're teaching men these days. But it's a natural state for a woman to want to love and to create. I mean, that's just normal, or to make, to make something. And it's a natural state for a man to want to protect. And that's what freedom really is. I mean, what does protection mean? What does be safe mean? When people bring these words up to me, I go, what do you mean? I'm awake. What does that mean? What are you awake from? What did you fall asleep from? Right? I'm spiritual. What do you mean? No one answers that, right? I can, I'm ascending. What do you mean? I'm not coming back to this life. Why? What do you mean? Like, what's going on? What is your life? Like, I'm in a matrix. What do you mean? People get angry with me because they can't really answer these questions, because really you are the matrix, you are your life, you are the ascended master, you are your freeing self, you are your love. I mean, everything begins and ends with you, and not in a selfish way, but in the only way it's possible, being a bit of God or a bit of Buddha or a bit of spirit or a bit of goddess, in that you have everything. If I was ever going to have children, I would give children everything, and that would be the creative power to do anything, and then go, okay, up to you now. I don't really like when you're doing something stupid, but hey, maybe you got to have that experience. What can I say? And so, to get back to answering your question directly, I would agree with you. If you watch a real woman, you can learn about love and selflessness, and real being the key answer to that. If you watch a real man, you can see sacrifice and dedication, and the idea that, freedom and being safe means you keep monsters away, means you keep parasites away, means you keep anything that doesn't allow your love to grow away from your family and your community. And then you have to know what these monsters are. So you have to study them. You have to know what a parasite is. You have to study it. You have to know, look behind the money system. What's going on there? Where does it come from? Who's making it? Why is it, oh no, it's gold. Oh no, it's digital coin. It's like, it's all the same bullshit, because you're giving up your power for something that's not real. And this is a weird world in that it's upside down, because our true value and our true limit is we have a life. You get a first breath, you get a last breath, supposedly. And, that's the gift. And it's literally priceless, right? Whereas you can have a million, pounds of gold, or a million digital wallets, or a million whatevers, houses, cars, and, try trading that for a banana when you're up a mountain and you're starving to death. It's impossible. It's not going to happen, right? What are you going to do with that? So, the paradigm itself needs to shift. When you asked me about imagination, so I'm getting back into it. The paradigm itself needs to shift back to something that can be imagined beyond anything that's put down these days as possible. Anybody that tells you it's a little better if you have more dollars, or it's a little better if you work less, or it's a little better if there's less taxes, it's a little better if Joe is your boss instead of Billy. Oh no, it's a little better if Jane is your boss, instead of Sally. Or it's a little better if you're a man instead of a woman. They're supposedly changing your identity, which is, anyways, I won't get into the insanity that brews in there. Beyond insanity, you're missing the point of yourself.
Yeah, this is so good. Now, you touched on what your definitions of freedom. Now, love, you've said a couple of times that you wanted to see the true meaning of love, not just this romantic fairy tale love. What did you discover? What's the true meaning of love?
Freedom.
Yes, yes, they're the same energies, right?
But
In
I'm
us.
going to put it in
Yeah.
one word: it's freedom. And what, yeah. And so wherever you're not free is wherever you're not loved, being loved, or sharing love.
Yes.
So if you sit down and you see where you're not free, if it's monetary, if you want to say it's currency, then what is a currency but a flow anyways, right? A currency, you plug in. What does that mean? If you're not free, what does that mean? What does freedom mean to you? Right? And I don't necessarily mean I had an argument with somebody or disagreement, but free to travel or free to pay less taxes or free to not do medical. And of course, you an outside and inside freedom is not the same, right? Anybody that sacrificed themselves throughout history, whether they're real or fictional, has shown that an inner freedom goes beyond the outer freedom, and it shows you in some ways the illusion of this crazy life anyways. Who even knows about death? We haven't even talked about that, or the illusionary power, the real power of your personality, what happens at the end of your time here, what you build and you have to give up. So I would say freedom is what's there beyond your personality that we all develop in this life, beyond whatever masks we put on. We have a mask to people, and then when you're sitting alone in a room, you have your personality to yourself. I can remember I didn't have any dates in high school, right? I didn't have any dates in university. Like I didn't know what was going on with the social milieu, although I had all the male hormones at the time. And I remember when I was 18 or 19, sitting down one day and going, you have to be an asshole to get a date. You'd have to be one of these guys, you know, to find women, because just being a nice, loving guy wasn't doing it for me at the time, anyways. So I remember telling myself, oh, okay, I'm an asshole now. Oh, I'm going to put on this person. And then I became a stalker. And then I was an asshole. Of course, you get lots of dates, you have lots of relationships and girlfriends, but they all end up being what they are in the end. They're all gone now, right? None of them were really loving, no matter what I told myself at the time. So the real definition of freedom is getting to the core of yourself, getting to the core of your potential, getting to the core of who you are, as hard as that might be. And that's the hard part, is once you get there, no one's telling you what to do anymore. Us humans are trained to be told what to do all the time. So you're sitting there one day, you're going, I'm free. Now what? Well, exactly. Now what?
Now, the word that comes to mind as you're saying this is authenticity, because when I've talked to, I think you're number 67, Heart Warrior, the men say the same things about authenticity. Is this what you mean when you say coming to your core and, working out what freedom means?
What do you mean by authenticity?
Well, this is what I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. Well, it depends what authenticity means, right? Authentic means, I could look it up, I guess, but it means real. I think it means, it's not a lie. I'm going to guess what authenticity means. It means authentic, meaning not false. So how do you judge that is the question. I mean, what's authentic for me might not be authentic for someone else. So I'm saying you have to figure out even what authenticity means for you, right? What it is. And so for me, like I see much beyond what's possible, in that I know our dreams can make anything, right? We use 10% of our brain. What's going on in the other 90%, right? You see these other realities people talked about, Tartaria, old civilizations, old ways to be, old religions. Maybe it's all been lost. I mean, I have a dream at night. Something was sitting with me the other day, and maybe our authenticity is we can have as many dreams as we can imagine. Maybe I don't know about you. Have you had a dream at night that seems to have gone on for decades? I have them all the time. I wake up and I go, whoa, that seemed to have gone on for 20 years and I was only asleep for 3 hours. Right? So what is time? What does that mean? And so maybe this is a dream. Life is but a dream. Maybe you'll wake up one day and you're going to go, oh, Gemma, that was an interesting dream. And now I can go on with whatever. Or I'll go, wow, what a strange dream that was when I was Lorenzo all those years. And now it's, if you have a vacation, it seems so long at the beginning, so short at the end. Life seems so long when you're 10 and maybe so short when you're, 90. And so it's all perspective, right? Because when you get to the end of something, it seems so short, but when you're in the middle of it, it seems so long. You can't wait to get to you're an adult. When I was 14, then you're an adult and it seems to be going by faster all the time now. So it really depends on what you feel is authentic for you. So that's the only way I could really answer that, because I'm not even sure, other than I see that you have the potential for as many dreams as you can imagine. Right? And I see that this is just one and we're figuring things out. And I don't mean figuring things out. I'm not, we're not here to learn lessons. We're not here to get out of the matrix. We are here to understand ourselves.
Yes.
I have found for myself. And as soon as you do that and you really understand yourself, and I don't mean up here, I mean, you've got your guts, your heart, your intuition, your dreams, who knows what else you've got going for you. You've got it all working together. Then you can figure out, what, to me, that's true authenticity then. Getting to the core of your creative power and using that with your heart and your guts and your intuition to, why not leave things better than you found them?
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Lorenzo, with all your experience and so many tangents we could go on, we've got about half an hour left. What do you think is the most important topic to bring into this conversation around men and masculinity, or the healing journey?
To realize you have a responsibility to direct your community, whether it's a community of one or a community of 101, towards freedom. I think a man's true, authentic, you go back, I mean, supposedly in the 1800s, when they came to take your children to school, they had to come at gunpoint from farmers, right? Because men realized, families realized, your children, your responsibility. You raise them from first day until they're free. That's why you have children, right? To show them, to share with them how to be alive. You want to pass some skills along, that's great. You want to pass some desires for how to be alive, that's great. So that's your responsibility, right? And this, starting school and kindergarten when you're 1, 2, 3, taking them away for daycare because mother and father has to work. I mean, the true dedication of men, I would say at this moment, is to take back full responsibility for everything in their community, all of it. Doesn't matter what, giving any of it away. Why would a politician care for you? They don't. How can a principal in a school know you and understand what your family needs? He or she can't, right? How can a daycare, I watch, daycare teachers here lots with children. It's all the time. And I watch people's faces when they turn away from what they're doing, the masks and how it drops. Like when they say, oh, nice to see you, nice to you. I always watch people for another 10 seconds, right? And you can see the inauthentic people and the monster face drops down. Or when women or men are talking and then they turn away, and I'll watch friends talk on the train or subway or down the street, and I'll watch them turn away, like because I study this, and I'll see their face shift towards something else that wasn't what they were sharing. And the real role then, I would say, of men is to take back full responsibility for everything in your life. Like if you're going to have children, dedicate yourself to them, right? And it's not enough to say, well, I've given you some money, and so now you have shoes. I mean, it's great. Now you have a roof over your head, and and here's your steak and your hamburgers. You have food. That's a baby providing, in my opinion, because that's the normal is you want people to have food and house and clothes and be warm. And it's like, okay, of course. Of course, you don't want your children to freeze to death or starve to death, and etc. And you want them to be intelligent, but then to understand for yourself what that means, what it is you're are you just making children to send them off to be salarymen, or to send them off to regurgitate a system that's not keeping people free? Or are you making them to you got nice fields behind you, are you making them to run through the fields and to enjoy their life that way? It's a really fine line, but why else are we here but to there's nothing but better. We're very lucky in that. To me, this society has hit rock bottom in so many ways. We could talk for more than a half an hour on how crazy things are. So there's nothing but better ways to be alive. There's nothing but better ways to be loving. There's nothing but better ways to create, trade, currency, food, etc. And you have to be willing to give up your life. I mean, that's that's a key. This be safe. They're basically, again, I'll come back to that. Basically, they're saying be a coward. That's what I hear. Be a coward. Don't forget to be a coward. Yeah. Don't forget to be afraid. Like, and that's really all that, because there's no such thing as safety. It's an illusion, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Lorenzo, what are your top strategies for creating a life of freedom for yourself as a man?
To see where I'm an asshole still and to change that. my like there's Shigeru Mizuki. He's dead now. And he's done manga here, or he did for 80 years. He lost an arm in the war, and he was still a creative genius. he did Kitarlo. I don't know if people have heard of him, but he studied uh, ghosts and phenomenon and yokai, they're called. And it's just like otherworldly things. And he was very humble in his way and very beautiful. And I have a drawing sitting over there of a little boy looking in a mirror. And the mirror is him, of course, because he's looking at it. And he's looking kind of confused. And the little boy is sticking his tongue out at him, kind of like that. And basically, there's a caption underneath in Japanese that says, roughly translates, "How am I being stupid today?" Right? So he's looking in the mirror. So how am I not being loving? How am I not being strong? How am I not being courageous? You know, you can always do better when you're, I mean, we're only here to keep growing, like those trees that I talked about that are 500 years old and they're just getting stronger and bigger and bigger and stronger. I mean, I've heard that those mountains behind you used to be trees. You know, that was another theory, is that, you know, that they're just petrified enormous trees from how the world used to be. Like, who knows what was here before? Like, you know, who knows how we were living? Who knows what was going on? It's like, if my dreams are any indication, it's way beyond anything you and I can even talk about. You know, for like there was supposedly a huge building in France, 500 rooms. I forget the name of it now. It's still there, a castle that had no toilets. You know, this is one thing. So like, what's going on? Did people not have to do that kind of wasteful experience? You know, because they weren't at this low level of having to eat. You know, and people go, well, I'm a vegetarian. You know, you kill a broccoli or you kill a plant to eat it too. I mean, so maybe there was a time when you didn't have to kill anything to be alive. You know, maybe there's a way where you're not, you know, taking life to continue on with your life. So, you know, to see the potential and the imagine way beyond what's going on, even if you'll never get there, but to always strive for it anyways. You know, that's my definition of freedom.
Yeah, I love that. Lorenzo, you touched on religion when you were younger as a child, that, you know, maybe your parents were trying to push you into some religious doctrine. Would you like to expand on that? And it sounds like you already had a gut feeling that that wasn't for you.
When I was about 12, I was raised Jewish, right? Or Judea, as they say in Japanese, which is interesting. And, you know, there's this one time a year when you go to kid, you have to go to synagogue and get rid of your sins and all this other nonsense, where supposedly, you know, one day a year you get rid of your sins, then you're all right. Sure. So I remember my parents, we weren't part of any synagogue at the time, and they were just driving around trying to find a space, because you had to have a seat to sit and listen to rabbis. Oh yeah, that's what they were called. You know, tell you you're all right. And my parents didn't have a lot of money when I was 10, 12 at the time. You know, they were struggling to make a living. We were driving around. I still remember very clearly in Toronto, pulling up to some synagogue we've never been to before. My father going inside, wanting to buy a seat. Right. You couldn't even, you know, you couldn't even afford the seat in the main hall. You had to buy a seat in some classroom with a speaker on the wall. I still remember this, where you can hear their name to sit, and they couldn't afford it for whatever reason. They wanted whatever money they, and my parents were crying. My mother was crying in the front seat, that they couldn't supposedly afford to pay to get you in to this super important, according to them, way that you're going to cleanse your energy. So that right there, I said, right, bullshit. I said, right. So there's some sort of God setting something, you know, maybe not God, because, you know, I feel there's a higher something or other, spirit, you know, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, to sit there and go, so you need to pay money that you don't have to get rid of your sins. And then there's assholes. Like, I used to go some Saturdays and going, people pretending to be loving. And then I would see them the next day in my neighborhood being assholes, right? And going, well, that's not very loving, you know, to their children or to their family members or to me, you know, when I used to go visit some of these parents' homes at the time. So, you know, and then I've since, you know, I tried, one of my first girlfriends was Muslim. I tried to be Taoist. My wife is Shinto now. I was married in the Shinto religion, which is very interesting, just animus and animal, you know, rocks and everything alive. So, you know, going through all of them and sitting through all of the religions, you know, I come right back to what I've noticed. You know, you are your religion, how you relate to yourself. So, you know, I mean, people can take what they want from things, but anything that tells you you're limited in some ways and it's about money in another way, or you should hate someone because, you know, they used to tell me the Jewish people were the number one chosen people. And you're going, oh, yeah, sure they are. You know, or you know, the Muslims are number one, they're going to heaven, or Jesus is going to save you, and that's the only way you're, you know, and all these people are, you know, I'm going to be polite here, are missing a big point, and you know, the point is themselves.
What's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Depends what you mean by spirituality. I've had this talk with lots of people. It really
What
does.
it means for you. What is your difference between the word religion and spirituality?
I think if you mean the new age version of spirituality, it's just another religion. So I've thrown them both away. That's what I'll say. I'll say my religion is myself, my spirituality is myself. And I don't mean in a selfish way where I'm great because, whatever. I have my challenges, as I've mentioned, maybe ad nauseum in this conversation already to some people listening. But for me, it simply means becoming the best you can be and figuring out what that means for you, even, and then growing into it and always striving to be better than you were the day before, simply because it's possible to continue to grow and to reach. And listen to your dreams. I'll say that my dreams tell me all kinds of things that are possible that I don't see in a regular day. And listen to your heart, listen to your imagination, ask some advice of, find a loving friend or in a loving relationship and ask them to be honest with you, and see what that brings. There's a good definition of what's coming next, whether it's a religion. I mean, if you want to call that, I'll call that spirituality, because let's say a religion is a dogma set up by someone else, and let's say, well, I'll play the role of knowing what spirituality is, because I kind of know what people mean is, to grow into a higher vision or a better source for yourself. So dare to sit down and have someone say, you're not so nice this way, you're not so nice this way, you're pretty stinky that way, you need some energy cleaning that way, and you can be better this way, you can do less of this or more of that, and take it on the chin. And then to go back, way back to the beginning of this conversation, if you're having some craziness in your head at the time, someone's saying you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too old, you're too slothful, you're too lazy, you're too regretful, you're too whatever, or you're not enough of any of those things as well, listen to the crazy that goes on between your ears for a moment. That's your emotional body that says, they're wrong, they're horrible, you're right, I can't believe they said that, all the sacrifices I've made. And, let that get quiet, the cacophony between your ears. Talk to your guts, talk to your heart, talk to your second brain. If you're a lady, I hear women have wombs they have a brain in their womb. It gives them a different sort of intelligence than men. That goes back to another thing that's been, they're taking modern ladies, and putting them in their heads, and they shouldn't be in their heads. Nobody should really be in their heads. But to the ancestral, visceral feeling of continuity, let's say, that comes from a womb, I would say. And I don't mean making more children. I mean the intelligence that maybe is coming from, that's something we didn't touch base on yet. That, I was not raised in a way where I had any respect for my ancestors. And then Japan is a huge country of ancestors. So I had to watch my wife going, maybe they did make some sacrifices for me. Maybe they did do, that's the other side of them being lost in their limited ways of being alive. I go, okay, my father did this, my grandparents did this. And even though they weren't so nice this way, they did, and I'm here because of them. I'm here because they made whatever sacrifices they made to make babies or to give up their life, to give me the clothes and house and food. I was never beaten, not physically. Well, I mean, other than beaten with cookies, maybe, and too much sugar. um, so I would say the spirituality, and the difference is that no one can tell you what your spirituality is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. You said you had a sugar addiction, and it's come up now again with the cookies. How did you get, now you said, you walk past the donut shop, your feelings say nice, but your emotions say nice, but your feelings say not good for you. How did you get rid of sugar in your life? And what difference did it make?
Huge difference for me. I can't take it anymore, right? If I have a little bit of sugar in food, I feel it in my head. If you want to talk about spirituality, I can feel my intuition, my inspiration shrink immediately. I feel it go down to something else in another level that's beyond, because I try to operate from a heart level now all the time, or a level of instinct and intuition out of my head. And I find it brings me back to my head, which to me is very limiting from what I've discovered as more potential for myself. How I quit is, I remember being on the couch for 3 days once, or 4 days once. I had a huge, people that don't think they have a sugar addiction should try giving it up once. Just take a week off sugar, you'll see. You will really see the gnawing and the clawing of wanting to do more. I watched children now. My adopted family, or my Japanese family, some of them are still very addicted to sugar, and I've seen, when they bring their treats out and give it to their children, and I'm watching it, and I see the monsters come out. Or the children get crazy and start running around the room because you don't think about it when you're 5 or 6 or 7 how strong a drug it is. You just like the candy, or you just like the chocolate, or me too. You just like, and then you watch them, and you watch them run around, and then you watch them have a tantrum an hour later, and I can see that that's the sugar, even though nobody understands that. Oh, they're just tired. They're just upset. It's just been a long day. They just need a nap. And you're going, no, you just got them high on a on a drug, and now they're coming down and they don't know what's going on because they're children. And so when I watch that, and then I've had sugar again, don't get me wrong. I'll say, oh, that donut does look good, or that, and I'll feel how it, like when you take a break from something like say alcohol or cigarettes or whiskey or anything you're addicted to, if you give yourself a month away and then you try it again, you do see it with new eyes because your body has a different reaction than it did when you were addicted to it. It's not like, I feel better now that I've had a beer. Oh my goodness, now that I've had that chocolate bar, I finally feel normal. Something else talks to you once you've gotten it out of your system.
Yeah, so fascinating. And just to clarify, are you talking about just white processed sugar, like not natural
I'm
sugars?
just not, well, it really depends. Even maple syrup. I mean, I'm good with agave. I'm good with coconut sugar. I'm good with rice syrup sugar. So I don't know what it is. Maybe I just had my fill in this life. So, and some people seem to be okay with some sugar, and not. So everything's like, another way to look at it, this is I gain weight real easy, right? And so like if I eat when a normal person eats, I don't even eat lunch, I'll get fat. It's just the way my body's always been. No, it's just who I am. And so for so long, I was looking at it going, oh, that's horrible. They can eat more. My father's like, he ain't anything doesn't get an ounce, right? It's just his side of the family. And I used to piss me off. I'm going, oh my goodness, they can have all the snacks. They can have all this. Eventually one day I go, if there's a famine or if there's less food, I'm going to be the lucky one, right? Because I can get by on a lot less food. I just don't need to eat so much. It's like my body's built so that it conserves energy. My body's built so that I don't need a lot of these calories. So, I started to look at it from a different perspective. I'm going, aren't I lucky that I don't have to do all this eating and do all the other stuff that comes with eating so much, because my body's just maybe more efficient, or it just conserves energy better. It's just the way I am. It's just the way I'm built. So for me, it doesn't need the sugar. So I can feel how it has a negative effect on me. But some people can eat meat and they enjoy it. Some people can be vegetarians and it works for them, I guess. Some people can. So it really depends on an individual level. So, you can't tell anybody what's good or bad, but processed white sugar, highly addictive if you pay attention to it.
Yeah, and I think it only came out in what, the 50s or something, didn't it? So, and that's when, if you look at pictures of back in the 50s and the 40s, everyone was sort of, let's say an average size. Whereas now, if you take a photo of of a crowd, the
Oh
majority
yeah.
of them are overweight.
It's crazy. I would watch like old Soul Trains and see all the skinny people of color dancing. I'd like for on purpose I watch old 70s stuff or old 80s stuff. So we watch visions of families, like you said, or crowds or people at work, and you just look at them, like look at the people, or you look at people from 200 years ago, look in their eyes. And that's another way I've studied energy and what's going on. So you go, well, look at the ruthlessness. You'd see a warrior, whether they were a Native American or Native Australian, or someone that was working the coal mines at the time or whatever, and you could just see, you can see a determined ruthlessness in who they are and what they need and what needs to be. Or some of the original samurais here, which people don't know were white. So I think all the history, you see original samurais in Japan, they look like me more than they look like Asian people. It's interesting. They've got big round noses, and most of them are white, and they're short, and you're watching going, like so our history has really been changed from every perspective. So from understanding what is possible and to seeing where your energies come from and where it goes, you can work at understanding your addictions, I think. And from there, like you said, it's like people used to be skinny. You don't, like, even now, like you'll see families, it's weird. You'll see the mother is skinny and the daughter or son are big. Right. And it's like, I'm happy I don't have children. I'd be in trouble because I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth closed at the time. I go, what are you doing? Why are you getting so big? And then probably they'd hate me, eventually. And I go, like, you don't have to do that. Stop that. Right. It's like, obviously people eat too much. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? It really isn't. If you're overweight, you're eating too much. That's it, right? So eat less, right? If you don't feel good because you're not sober, you're drinking too much, right? If something's going on that you're not happy, you're probably not eating the right foods or doing the right job. Or if you're miserable, you're maybe in a bad relationship, or you have bad habits. It's not really rocket science figuring all this out. The rocket science from everybody when you talk about freedom is honesty with you to you, and where that takes you in your next step from that point. No matter if you hear but, I've done lots of videos of like someone says, I want to do this, but that's your butt in your way, quite literally, no matter how big or how small your butt is. And that's where you should stop and examine that butt. You're going, I want to do this, but I've been married. I want to do this, but I have a job. I want to do this, but I have a mortgage. I want to do this, but I want to travel. I want to do this, but this is so delicious. Or I want to do this, but I need a beer. That's what you really got to sit down and figure out and examine that butt, because that butt's in your way from your happiness.
Yeah, so good. And yeah, definitely. Um, so we've touched on the heart. I'd like to expand now on the heart, more from your individual experience as it relates to men and masculine. So you sound like you've always been pretty much in touch with the heart. I mean, what is it more than a pump that pumps an organ that pumps blood around the body?
It's everything, really. It's how you're attached to the all of everything, right? From what I've seen, I mean, it's not even just an organ that pumps in our lungs, are not just breathing in air, inspiration. You're taking in power, you're taking in magic. The heart is where we need to go, where I need to go to understand what's really going on, how to grow into the magnificent being you can be. I mean, what is love? It's a good question, right? So much like, why is all the rock and roll songs sing about love, and then the bottom line is you jump into bed at the end of the night, right? or why does love like buy chocolates, or why is love the opposite sex, which it's not, right? Or why is love making children, which it's not, right? I mean, it can be. You can love your children. Don't get me wrong. You can love your relationships, husband, wife, whatever. But what really is love, right? And so I've studied that, and as a man, it has become my battle cry, and that nothing is more important. If I'm not feeling love, I will stop a situation, right? If I'm not feeling love for people I'm working with, I felt love when you wrote me, so I said, okay, I'll do this interview, right? You have to feel the love of doing something before you do it. And if your heart is saying, then pay attention to what it is. It's not really like the challenge with magic, and the challenge with freedom, and the challenge with love. So simple, everyone just misses it. Right? It's the simplest thing in the world, but also the hardest thing. And it's just a matter of, you feel something that's authentic to you. We'll go back to the word authentic, and it's something you want to experience, because all parts of you are telling you, not just your habits. And then therein lies the challenge of making this simple thing real for you.
Yeah.
Right? And usually there's a huge challenge in the simplicity of getting to where it is your heart is telling you to go.
Yeah, I love this. And I mean, as a woman, on the whole, I would say the feminine energy is generally more in tune with feelings and emotions as the feminine energy. But I love this. And I know other men have spoken of, the masculine energy often being very much sort of above the shoulders. But I love how you're bringing it into the body and incorporating the heart. Have you got do you do like meditation, yoga, martial arts, anything that really puts you into your body?
Yes, maybe not in the ways people have defined them, though. I did take kickboxing, kung fu for a number of years, and it was very helpful for me. I did do meditation, tried yoga on that very same Sunshine Coast. I remember when yoga teachers at the time were rounding up people in the neighborhood to practice being teachers. So I tried that for a little while. When I used to do the paper, though, I remember going into yoga studios in Vancouver, and they hated what we were doing. I'm going, why do these people hate what we're doing? And then you realize, depends what you mean by yoga, because it used to be energy practices, and it's become like a fashion statement right now. So my definition of masculinity is below the heart, and I'm not getting rude, below the head. Mine is always sit in my center of my core, right? My head helps me. I did an interview with Harold Kotz. I don't know if any of your viewers are familiar with him. He's very, very intelligent scientist from Germany. And he's going, if you want to change the world, four steps, this was just an interview I did recently. It's like intent, will, and then choice, and then action. right? And I think choice and action, maybe come from the head. So I think what comes first is intent and will, like a gut or a feeling or something that comes from somewhere else that you want to make or create or do something new.
Mm.
I just want to ask you, like, there's something I've been meaning to get to before we run out of time here. Why are you doing the Heart Warrior series? I'm curious, like you said you have did you say 500 men or something was your goal? I forget. You had a goal of a certain number that you wanted to interview or something. Like why? Like what brought you to the spot where you wanted to get all this out and shared into the world?
Yeah, well, 100 men. I mean, literally, I do have connections, like energetically. I've been out to Catajuda. This is the sacred masculine site, the rocks, in Central Australia. I literally woke up one morning and knew I was going to do it, that feeling that you spoke about. And I didn't question it. I was just, the short story is, oh, I better start a YouTube channel because I don't think you're on Facebook, but, quite a prolific writer. So that's always been my sort of line.
Mm.
But, and, not really putting my face out there. So it was something huge for me. But I knew, because I do write a lot about the feminine and the masculine energies, I'm very interested in the feminine journey of the past few years, but now very interested
Mm.
in the men's movement and the rise of the masculine, because as you said, to build stronger and safer communities, like, the protective masculine and the freedom, we need our men to rise. And
I agree.
I do say that I didn't choose this, it was chosen for me. And I just kicked off with a friend with number one and plodded along.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing. I do want to invite you to share some of that writing. I'd be happy to get it up on our network, anytime you feel like it, if you're still doing the writing, and so we can continue to share. I can continue to move what we're doing, so it becomes more than the one out that we're doing right now, because I'm very much aligned in, the stronger people are anywhere in this world, the stronger we all are. The more men they are holding down freedom, the stronger we are. The more women that understand giving birth to a new dream, the faster it'll come. So I really appreciate what you've done and what you're sharing too, and allowing me to express myself, because I've done hundreds from the other side. I've done very few from this side, and any way that I can help, please let me know, because now that we've become face-to-face friends in our way here, I would be delighted to see how we can help each other grow.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Lorenzo. It'd be easier if you're on Facebook, but I'm guessing you're not, right?
We have a New Agora magazine. We're there on Facebook. So yeah, we do have. I'm going to start. Like, I've started a new Patreon page, New Tartarian Times, which is not what people think. It's really about how to get to a new world. What was going on? Too many people. I'm going to say my opinion. Go, oh my goodness, beautiful old buildings, beautiful old technologies, free energy. People are missing the forest for the trees, and that they have to be the beautiful energy. They have to be the free energy machines. They have to be the beautiful people. They have to be the imaginative people that made these ways and edifices. And what they have to give up is themselves or their old garbage, right? I did a first article, which is up for free on our Patreon page, New Tartarian Times, called Told the Self, Monsters at the Gate. So what are you paying to get into this new world? What are you hearing? What's being told? What's being told to you? What was your toll? And your toll is, to me, it seems easy. It's like taking a spiritual poo, if we're going to get back to it. Your old habits, your old beliefs, your old ways of being alive, all the things you don't like anyways. And of course it hurts, right? I mean, imagine being constipated for 40 years, what you're going to feel like when you sit down for the first time. It's not going to be a pleasant experience for anybody. I mean, I've done hundreds and hundreds of colonics to go
Yeah,
back. Like, how else did I get here? Like
I
at the
did them as
and
well.
I did the first 20 backwards before I watched some, because they didn't have videos at the time. I go, oh, you don't sit this way, you sit that way, right? So I had my crazy, messy experiences, we'll say. And some of the things that, I did hydrogen peroxide healing when I lived in Mexico for a while, like to get weird stuff. And the oxygen, like the food grade hydrogen peroxide, which gives you extra oxygen and melts all the bad stuff out of your body. Ooh, the stuff that melts out of your system and you smell coming off your pores and things. So I've done all kinds of cleansing to get off the sugars, as you mentioned, to get off the bad foods I had growing up. Like, you asked me about that. That's just coming back what I had to do. Tons of colonics, tons of fasting, tons of healing, tons of weird things like hydrogen peroxide. I can't say I recommend it. That stuff tastes horrible, but supposedly it works, oxygenates your body and gets the really bad stuff out. So maybe that's why I don't get sick, nothing bothers me, and I haven't had any crazy medical interventions in years and years and years.
Yeah, and I can relate. I was a lot on the sugar, and I've just like weaned it out of my life now too. So, and but I'm interested in now in what do you eat? What is
Oh,
your diet?
well, lots of fatty meats. Since I've come to Japan, I've been converted that way. Lots of fatty seafood because of that, I make my own kimchi all the time. They have tsukemono here, which is fermented in rice pickles and you can't buy any of this shit because if you buy it, it's got sugar or MSG in it anywhere and everywhere. I've noticed, which pisses me off, but that's the way it goes. So I've just learned you have to make your own. So fermented foods very important. When I miss them for a few days, I can tell. I think fermented foods, and fermented foods is it's why the Japanese probably live so long, or used to anyways. It's why they used to be healthier. Fermented shoyu, which is soy sauce, or beans, miso, and obviously the pickles and the kimchis and all of those things. So, but I eat a lot of fatty meat now. I don't care what anyone says. To me, I've heard that it was missing. Like I used to go to dentists all the time, and then somebody, I remember watching a video, said it's because you don't get enough organ meat, or you're not eating enough of the internal what have yous of the animals, or enough fat from fish and things. And since I've started, I don't go to dentists anymore. No problems, because they said you can grow everything back because you're missing minerals. Because raised in North America where fat is bad, fat is bad, don't eat fat, don't eat fat, don't eat fat. And it's the opposite here in Japan. But the fatty meats are the more expensive ones by a lot, and stuff such as that. So I would guess, before the vegetarians get angry with me, is eat what your body says you need. I tried being a vegetarian, it didn't work for me. Make sure that things are sourced. Can't always get organic here, but I try and go to the farms and the farmers and the local stuff and the things as much as possible. I mean, even in Canada, I remember reading that all the organic stuff, which has to come from outside of Canada, because Canada is a winter country, especially in the winter, it's all radiated. So you get your organic lemons, and I didn't realize till I got here, and you're getting them from your neighbor, just giving you a bag of lemons or a bag of other citrus. They're not even the same fruit. You're going, wait a minute, what's that weird, complicated taste? It's not just sour and lemon. You're tasting all these minerals and all this other energy behind whatever it is you're eating, and it's very different. So local, and only not because of the carbon or your footprint or the pollution. It's all bullshit. I think it's just mostly because it hasn't been poisoned. The closer you are to the source of your food, the closer you are to the source of getting something that hasn't been altered. And if it's not altered, and they radiate everything. I watched, mangoes coming from Australia to other parts of the world. They're just, how do you do it videos. I watch lots of those, and you watch all the mangoes going through this machine that's zapping them with light. And I'm going, oh right, that's their UV stuff where they're supposedly for your safety, getting rid of all the bugs. And really what they're doing is they're killing all the nutrients. Pasteurization. First time I had raw milk in Mexico, the lechero came up on a donkey, and took it out of his side cart and like into the lady beside me into her jug. And I tried it. I'm like, oh, that's milk, right? Whatever they raised me on, that wasn't milk. Or it was a friend of mine here when I lived somewhere had a goat, right? And had to milk the goat because that's the way it is. And we used to get for $1 goat milk every day. And my wife would make kefir from it. Right. And you're going, real food. Right. So I'm not saying you have to be a farmer, but figure out where to get real food, and you'll notice your energy levels change. Right. You'll notice, when you have good gut bacteria, you'll notice, and I'm not saying it to be healthier because it's good or because of carbon, because it's cheap or because it's better for environment, which I think is suspect anyways, as a way to, keep you safe. It's more of the nature of you eat healthy living food, you become a healthy living being.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. So two things left, Lorenzo. First, I'd like you to let people know where they can find you, and I'll put all the links below if you could email them to me, please. And then I'll ask you to deliver a final message for men.
Well, newagora.ca is our website. NEWAGORA.ca. Agora just means a whole bunch of people coming together, new ways to be, new community sort of thing. We have elect to govern yourself, where we used to have it on our masthead when we did print. And from newagora.ca, you can find all of our links. My email is there, all of the other works I do, the New Now, which is my video channel. But, that's a good place to start. And if you go there, you can find everything else. And if you have any trouble, Lorenzo at newagora.ca, that's my email. I don't hide anything. Send me an email. If it's intelligent, I'll answer. That's how I put it. If it's intelligent, loving, you get a response from me. If it's the other kind, I'll probably ignore it. And so that's where you can find everything that I've done. I'm doing New Tartarian Times, with Campbell from Autodidactic. He's a fellow Australian. So we're sharing ways to be alive, ways to be strong men, ways to allow yourself to grow into the kind of community man you could be and can be. And there you go.
Yeah, I've interviewed Campbell.
He's great. I mean, that's how you change your life too in your imagination. It's like 3 years ago, I said, hey, I like what this man's doing. I'm just going to send him an email. And he said, I don't usually answer emails, but I want to talk to you. And then, 300 videos later, and some of my heroes that I've just wrote a few times, and they said, okay, let's chat. So, if you want to do something, that's another way. My final message to men: you want to make a new life, you want to make a new community, you want to make a new way to be alive, just put the effort in. Right? And don't let your head stop you when it says they'll never talk to you or you're a bad interviewer. My wife still doesn't believe me. I'm shy. I'm a shy guy, but doesn't matter when it comes time to doing something. You just do it. My heart's not shy though, right? My head is shy. So when I'm sharing, I'm just sharing and I'm not thinking about it and it's working. So that's another message for men. If you need to do something, you want to do something, your feeling is to make something new, do it anyways.
Such a great message.
See what happens. What's the worst that'll happen? You fall down, you make a mess, you hurt yourself, you'll be dirty. It happens to all of us anyways. Everyone falls down. Everyone, I have a piece of pottery here that says, fell down 8 times, got up 9. It's an old Japanese saying. So, whatever, who hasn't fallen down and made a mess and been stupid and been an idiot, like everyone, and be happy with being a fool. Be happy with being, looked at that way, because then you have nothing, then you become fearless. Because that's one thing that stops most people. It's like they're afraid to look stupid or foolish or unhandsome or unpretty or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, be ready in your own heart to be successful, and you'll find people. Like I didn't get married till I was 50, right? So I thought I was never going to get married till I met my wife who came to Canada. And it doesn't matter. I had to wait till I grew up, till I became that man at 50 and knew who I was, or else I would have probably had a miserable marriage, miserable family, miserable things. So I waited, and it doesn't matter, right? So now it's amazing, and my life is growing, and I'm finding out what really it means to be in a relationship. So if you're honest with yourself and you succeed in making sure you're listening to your own heart, no matter the challenges, life will be great. Life will be amazing. Life will be much better than it is, or much better than you can even think it will be, just by allowing that to happen for yourself. So that's my message to men.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. It's been a fascinating interview. Just so many bits, and we probably could have kept on talking for ages. I'll invite you back onto Manspeak at some point, which is an offshoot where you can pick your conversation, your topic, something you're passionate about, and roll with it for 90 minutes. So
okay. If you ever want to come on the new now and talk about freedom, I would love to, because I had some questions for you that wasn't appropriate in this conversation. So if you want to come on and talk about freedom one day, there's not enough strong women. There's not enough women in the world. Same with strong men. There's not enough women listening to their true power and getting out there and doing what they need to do. Women supporting men, and men letting women be free, and all the beautiful stuff like that. So if you want to talk about that and get a little bit more into the core of those sorts of things, I'd be delighted to have you on my show as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. That's something I'm slowly getting into too, finding my voice, and so I will accept that invitation. Thank you, Lorenzo.
For sure.
Everyone, thank you for watching. I'll be back in a couple of days with another episode of Heart Warriors. If you could like, share, subscribe, and check out Lorenzo's channel as well. So thank you, and bye.
Love you all very much. Bye-bye.